glad I finally got to that song because it is so fun to play, even just fun to listen to. That's one of the big things that happened this week. Let's see, it is Friday the 13th, our last newscast before camp. Not sure if I'm going to get to news next week. It sort of depends on the electronics situation at camp. I was supposed to have a lesson this morning with my one of my favorite students, although that's a long list. Matt F. this morning couldn't happen. He's off fighting another fire. So I don't know if everybody knew that, but Matt F., one of our fly on the wall contributors, is a firefighter and spent some time out in Yosemite last week, had to miss his lesson, and is up at another fire near here in Mount Diablo. Anyway, California's on fire. Not, people in Colorado. I hope things are going well out there. God, it's tragedy week. And of course, when I think about Matt and things that happened, of course, this was also the anniversary of 9/11. Okay. Let me kind of get grounded here and see if I can focus. I'm doing so many things. My focus is way worse than usual lately, as you can probably tell, because I'm really excited about camp. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the stuff that happened. I might have to play a little bit. I'm trying to practice too. Okay, that's coming along. Might have to break out a few obscure John Renbourn tunes for the concert with Al next week. Okay, I want to talk about a few cool things going on the forum. Pinky Plant is going to be one of them. That was a great question from a relatively new member, Dave. And Susie, the thread about albums front to back. I have a few suggestions, not suggestions, comments on that, because there are a few albums that made big impressions on me the first time I heard them. And I had to play them multiple times, which doesn't happen too often. Let's see, what else? Oh, this was a great, I guess this is what started the whole thing, More Than a Feeling. One of my students brought that up the other day, and I looked at the tablature, and I think I have some mistakes in it, but it's one of those things that can go lots of different ways. The order of the notes after those bass notes. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? I think I gave you the headlines. So the new Target stuff that we had this week were Kevin working on Stairway To Heaven, and we didn't even get to this part, but there are really good tips in there about getting things in the right order and stuff. I think that was the right one. Huh. And I had a lesson with my one of my kids, he's 19 or 20 now, Jacob, and we resurrected. We have a really old fly on the wall from a long time ago of him working on some Marcy Playground tunes, and when he came in, we said, hey, let's figure out Sex and Candy, and we did. And I thought, you know what, that's going to make a great ear training song because it's very basic. So that was one of the things we had. Vanessa came out with another Decemberists tune, June Hymn, and I believe that same kind of thing. Figure it out first. But great tunes by that band, great harmonies and stuff, so really enjoying that. And then it was Cortez, and I hope people kind of got the gist of what was going on in that song. Yes, there is no attachment, because completely unnecessary, in my opinion, I guess, because the focus of the lesson was really more to experiment with the G pentatonic scale and learn to throw in an F sharp or a C when it's appropriate. Okay, let's see. Let's get to some of those questions that were going on. I guess the bad habit one is probably the biggest one, and many of you who've been around for since the inception know that I've talked about one of a habit I had to change, and it was to learn to play the last steam engine train. This little rapid picking part, I had to change my right hand position from something like this, where my thumb and index finger kept running into each other, to something that worked better. Now, the Pinky Plant that we've talked about, I hope there's not too much confusion on it. When you're finger picking, never. got to use your ring finger as one of your weapons, and if your little finger is down, it's not going to happen. If you want to sound like Merle Travis, put all three of them down and just beat away with your thumb and your index finger. Okay, wait, let's not go there. But when you're playing something like, when you're doing, so good place to start is House of the Rising Sun. Simple arpeggio. And good hand position, just working with your hands, making sure your fingers are just barely moving. You know, you don't want this to be happening. Make you miss notes all over the place. Now, if you're playing with a pick, then it's a different story. If you're strumming something like this, not really any plant, and you have to be able to hit those notes. But in the earlier part of that song, for that type of cross picking, put it down. If you're playing Don't Fear the Reaper. Now, if you do it without that in picking, you have a little bit more. You can be more dynamic. You can hit those notes a lot harder. Now they're not as clean and crisp, but they don't really need to be. It makes it a lot more musical. So for stuff like then take it off for the strumming. I think that's the main stuff I want to talk about there. And now I want to weigh in on great albums from front to back. And there were three that popped into my head immediately when I started thinking about this. And these are three albums that the first time I put them on, I froze, listened, and then sat through it again. And one of them 3 times. The other 2 I'm not sure. And then of course albums that are tough to. I gotta throw Thick as a Brick and Tubular Bells in there. That same thing. Because, but they're different. They're not. They're more of a symphonic thing. You know, you can't say, oh, there's weak spots in this because okay. So you gotta throw those out. Now, Aqualung absolutely is one of them. Now that's not one of the ones I was going to throw in of the 3 that jumped into my head because I distinctly remember, I don't remember what order these came in. Oh, I can probably figure it out. Maybe. 2 that came out right around the same time. The second Loggins and Messina album. With Your Mama Don't Dance on it. Played it 3 times in a row, front to back, and liked it more every time. The 7th Moody Blues album, 7th Sojourn. Chris, I'm with you on this one. Although, if I bring in Moody Blues albums, their first 2 started this, although Days of Future Past got a little heavy with the orchestra at times. In Search of the Lost Chord, they were still kind of refining this thing of songs flowing into one another. But the next 5, what were they? To our children's children, On Threshold of a Dream. 5th one, Question of Balance, and then Every Good Boy Deserves Favor, followed by 7th Sojourn. Those 5 albums I would almost throw into this category too. They're just well put together. I think by Octave they were going the way a lot of things were happening in the mid-70s, getting a little bit more hit single conscious, but less of that on up through 7th Sojourn. Now there were still some great tunes, of course, as we know. Anyway, and one of the and the last one, 1976. I'd already heard a couple songs from this album when I bought it, and it intrigued me enough. There was one that was glued, running through my head. I couldn't get rid of it, and then I picked up the album and realized I'd heard a couple other songs on it. Ooh, I'm gonna have to brush up on that. A lot of my respect and admiration for Al Stewart was because of that album, Year of the Cat. In my opinion, top to bottom, every song, absolute A material. from Lord Grenville, which I would say is probably the weakest. That's maybe an A-. But the rest of them, Sand in Your Shoes, if it doesn't come naturally. Of course, Broadway Hotel, On the Border, Hear the Cat. One Stage Before. Anyway, okay, enough rambling. If you are not, everybody should have Hear the Cat in their collection. Okay, I think that's everything I meant to talk about today. One more tune I've been practicing. Yeah, I'm thinking when I open Al's show next week that I have to pay homage to the biggest influence in my musical career, who also kind of opened the door for getting to know people like Al. And that is, of course, John Renbourn. Uh-oh. Should be. Back to the regular tuning. There we go. Okay, that's it for Friday the 13th. I hope everybody has a good weekend. It is expected to be beautiful here in California. I hope it is too, wherever you are. And really looking forward to seeing what's going on at camp, or seeing everybody there. And maybe we'll have a report next Friday. Maybe not. Might have to wait till the week after. See ya.